The story of Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo's quiet karaoke evening at the hidden Gangnam Cafe seemed like it had reached its peak. Fans spent days analyzing every rumor, every tiny clue, every supposed detail from that night. But just when the online world began to settle into the comfort of speculation, a new voice entered the conversation, someone who had been silent until now. A staff member, who had been working that night, decided to speak up, not to reveal anything scandalous, but to share one small detail that instantly reignited the entire narrative and sent fans spiraling into excitement once again. It wasn't a dramatic confession, nor was it something invasive. It was simply a subtle observation, but in the world of two of South Korea's biggest stars, even subtlety becomes explosive. According to this staff member, the night didn't end exactly the way people believed. Everyone thought Lee Min-ho and Song Hye-kyo arrived separately and left separately, maintaining a careful distance to protect their privacy. And while that part was true, there was something about their exit that hadn't been mentioned before, mostly because the staff assumed it wasn't important. But when the story started trending everywhere, and the cafe became the quiet center of a global conversation, the employee realized that this tiny detail may actually matter. It began with the simple moment after they both stepped out of the private booth. Song Hye-kyo had left first, heading quietly toward the back exit where the cafe typically allowed high-profile guests to leave unnoticed. Lee Min-ho followed a few minutes later, head down, mask on, moving at his usual unhurried pace. But the new detail was this: before Lee Min-ho walked out, he returned briefly to the booth. Not for anything dramatic, just a moment that the staff originally brushed aside. He stepped back in, picked up something from the table, paused for a few seconds as though thinking, and then walked out. It wasn't until later that the staff realized what he had returned for: a small handwritten note he had left on the table. At the time, they assumed it was one of his typical polite messages. Celebrities often left short thank you notes for private venues they used frequently. But when the worker retrieved the booth after they left, they noticed something strange. It wasn't actually a thank you note. It was a short line written in soft pen, folded neatly, but left behind by mistake. The note wasn't addressed to anyone. It wasn't a letter. It was simply one sentence, just a short phrase that immediately stood out to the staff member: "It felt peaceful today." That was all it said. The handwriting was unmistakably Lee Min-ho's. Elegant, spaced, precise. The staff member said they didn't think much of it at first, assuming it was a personal reminder or line he was working with. Actors constantly jot down words and phrases for scripts, emotions, or characters. But the part that caused the stir was what happened the next morning. Song Hye-kyo posted an Instagram story, a simple serene picture of a warm light, almost like the glow of a quiet evening, and underneath it she had written one word: peaceful. No context. No explanation. Just the word. The staff member didn't want to fuel rumors and didn't tell anyone immediately, but when they saw fans online connecting dots between the cafe, the timing, and the mysterious calmness surrounding the story, the coincidence felt too strong to ignore. They eventually spoke anonymously to a small entertainment blog, stating clearly that they weren't implying anything romantic or sensational. They were simply sharing what they observed: the handwritten line left behind, and Song Hye-kyo's oddly similar post the next morning. The revelation spread through the fandom almost instantly. What had previously been a charming story about a quiet cafe night suddenly became layered with new meaning. Fans began theorizing that the note may not have been a script phrase, but instead a reflection of the mood the two actors shared that evening: calm, relaxed, comfortable. The idea that Lee Min-ho wrote the phrase and Song Hye-kyo echoed it the next day without knowing he had left the note behind became a new obsession online. Some argued it was pure coincidence. Others insisted it was an emotional connection, something that happened naturally between two people who had spent time together in an unfiltered, authentic moment. The cafe worker clarified that the note wasn't meant for Song Hye-kyo. It wasn't left intentionally for her. It seemed more like something Lee Minute-ho wrote for himself, a quiet internal reflection of the night. But the timing of her story, just hours later, made fans believe that both actors must have left the cafe feeling the same way. Calm, relieved, and at peace. For two individuals constantly under public scrutiny, a night without cameras, without scripts, without pressure, could easily evoke a shared emotional tone. And that shared tone is what fans latched onto. Social media lit up as fans began revisiting everything from that night. The songs that were rumored to have been sung, the laughter insiders described, the way they supposedly interacted in natural, unguarded ways. Now, with the new note detail, the evening looked less like a casual, friendly meeting and more like a deeply grounding moment for both actors. A moment where the noise of the outside world faded, replaced by soft music, quiet conversation, and the kind of peace celebrities rarely get to experience. Entertainment commentators weighed in, noting that the detail didn't suggest a romantic relationship, but it did highlight a rare emotional comfort between the two. That comfort, they explained, is often the foundation of great on-screen chemistry. Rumors of a possible project grew stronger. Some speculated that they might be preparing to announce a drama or film together, one that required private meetings away from the pressure of public attention. If that were the case, the peaceful note might simply reflect the ease of working with each other, a hint at the chemistry that producers and directors often hope to see when pairing big names. Still, fans couldn't ignore the uncanny synchronicity between the note and the Instagram story. As the story gained traction, the cafe itself became a curiosity. Fans tried to guess the location, though it remained undisclosed. Many speculated it was one of several private cafes in Gangnam known for their discreet staff and hidden exits. A few even tried visiting suspected spots, though nothing was confirmed. The mystery only added to the charm of the entire narrative. What fascinated people most was that the new detail didn't change the core of the story, it expanded it. The karaoke night had already been described as warm and natural. Now, with the revelation of the note, the emotional impact deepened. It made the evening feel not only relaxed but meaningful in a quiet, unspoken way. And in a world where celebrity interactions are usually loud, exposed, and dissected, this simple expression of peace felt refreshing. It was the kind of moment fans replayed over and over in their minds, imagining what must have happened in those soft-lit hours behind the closed booth door. Whether the note was a personal reflection or part of a creative process, it added a human touch to the story, a moment of vulnerability from someone whose life is usually lined with cameras and expectations. It wasn't proof of anything more. It wasn't a clue to some hidden romance. It was simply a feeling captured in words. But sometimes, feelings are the most powerful pieces of a story. And the moment that one staff member shared that forgotten line, everything shifted again. The cafe night was no longer just a quiet meeting. It became the beginning of a new wave of curiosity, analysis, and anticipation. Fans suddenly wondered, if that night brought them peace, what came after? Once the handwritten note became public knowledge, the fandom entered a different phase. It wasn't chaotic speculation or meme-style excitement. It was something deeper, a sense that the story had meaning beyond the usual celebrity rumor cycle. Fans began wondering what exactly peace meant for two global stars whose lives rarely offer quiet spaces. They wondered what kind of conversation leads someone like Lee Minute-ho to pause and write such a line before leaving. And they wondered what kind of night could inspire Song Hye-kyo to echo the feeling without ever mentioning where she had been or who she had been with. Entertainment reporters quickly tried reaching out to both actors' agencies, not for confirmation, but for broader context. As expected, neither agency commented. Silence in situations like this often speaks louder than denial. It suggests professionalism, privacy, and control over the narrative. Agencies rarely interfere with harmless stories, especially ones that do not paint their clients negatively. The lack of response only fueled more interest. Fans began to see the note not as a romantic clue, but as evidence of a meaningful connection, a professional bond, or simply a moment where two people with intense schedules found rare comfort in an unexpected evening. Meanwhile, the staff member who shared the detail remained anonymous. They explained that their intention wasn't to create scandal. They simply felt that the public misunderstood the entire night. They said that the karaoke session wasn't as dramatic or wild as some fans imagined. It wasn't a date. It wasn't secretive in the scandalous sense. It was genuine, calm, gentle. And the note reflected that. According to the worker, both actors seemed relieved, as if stepping into the cafe had given them a break from something heavy. The moment made more sense when fans remembered that both actors had recently completed intense projects that required emotional range, personal discipline, and long hours. In the days after the revelation, fans began compiling timelines of both actors' movements. Not invasive ones, just public appearances and social media posts. Interestingly, both actors appeared noticeably calmer, more rested. Even in their unrelated interviews, their tone seemed softer, more grounded. Lee Minute-ho mentioned in one interview that he had recently been enjoying quiet moments. Song Hye-kyo, in a separate magazine profile, said she had found comfort in small, peaceful spaces. Neither referenced the cafe night, but fans couldn't help connecting the dots. A few entertainment insiders suggested privately that the two actors had been discussing a project. According to them, the cafe meeting wasn't the first time they had met privately, it was simply the first time anyone heard about it. The karaoke moment wasn't a romantic gesture, but an actor's way of unwinding, of expressing emotion outside the confines of a script. And the peaceful note may have been part of the emotional exploration required for the kind of characters they might soon portray. But with no official confirmation, those theories remained in the realm of speculation. Still, the note continued to gain symbolic power online. Fans created artwork of the handwritten line. Others speculated about what song he may have sung to inspire such a reflection. Some even imagined what their conversation sounded like, two professionals discussing life, art, rest, and the strange beauty of living under constant public attention. The narrative became less about gossip and more about appreciation for their humanity. What made the story grow even more was what happened a few days later. Song Hye-kyo posted another subtle update, not a photo this time, but a song recommendation on her story. It wasn't a love song. It wasn't even romantic. It was a soft, nostalgic Korean ballad from years ago, one known for its warm tone and lyrics about quiet companionship. Fans immediately compared the melody with the type of songs often chosen at karaoke booths. The idea that she might have been reflecting on that night, on the warmth of it, the peace of it, took over the comment sections of multiple fan accounts. Lee Minute-ho, around the same time, posted a candid behind-the-scenes picture from an unrelated shoot. The caption was only 3 words, "Simple days matter." It wasn't connected to the cafe story directly. But the timing, combined with the tone, made fans believe that both actors were carrying the emotional softness of that evening with them. The cafe itself became a quiet symbol in the community. A place fans imagined as warm, private, and untouched. A space where two highly respected actors could lower their shoulders, breathe, laugh softly, and exist without performance. The idea that the note had been unintentionally left behind made it even more impactful. It wasn't a message meant to be shared. It was a moment that slipped through the cracks of secrecy, revealing the emotional truth of the night. As the story continued spreading globally, some fans worried that the attention might push the actors away from appearing together publicly. But entertainment insiders suggested the opposite. When stories are harmless, respectful, and focused on emotion rather than scandal, actors often become more comfortable letting the public see glimpses of their interactions. If anything, this peaceful narrative may soften the way future collaborations are received. Of course, the biggest question fans wanted answered remained the same: Would they be seen together again? Would another private meeting be discovered? Would a brand or drama finally confirm their partnership? Those questions lingered in every online discussion. And though no one could predict the future, one thing became clear: the karaoke night was not the end of the story. It was the beginning of a new phase, one defined not by loud drama, but by quiet connection. A connection noticed not through scandal, but through serenity. A feeling so strong that both actors, intentionally or not, expressed it in their own ways the next day. In an industry built on noise, their quietness spoke loudly. And now, with that forgotten note revealed, fans everywhere are waiting for what comes next, wondering if there will be another moment, another soft clue, another quiet gesture that deepens the mystery of two stars whose paths seem to be aligning more closely than ever.